You buckle up. It's going to be a ride. Here's the thing. Your brain makes it way worse out than it actually is. And it normalizes. It's just that journey from uncertainty to normalization is where opportunities really created. And you get used to it at different times.
Welcome to the Contrarian Capitalist Podcast, the ultimate destination for accredited investors and entrepreneurs seeking alternative wealth-building strategies. Discover how to fast-track your journey to wealth and time freedom by thinking outside the box. If you're ready to join the ranks of the Contrarian Capitalists and learn the most effective ways to reach your financial goals faster, you're in the right place. Let's get started with today's episode of the Contrarian Capitalist Podcast.
Thank you once again for joining another episode of the Contrarian Capitalist Podcast. I am your host and your favorite silverback, Sylvania Harrod. And on today's episode, I'm going to wrap up the process that the 6-step episodes I was talking about. I don't know a 6-step episode, but it's definitely 6 episodes of 90 days to stop sitting on cash and start building real wealth. So in the previous episodes, we went through and we talked about things like understanding the number you need, choosing your path, destroying the I'm not ready myth, setting the table, pulling the trigger. And now I want to give you a little information on what happens after you make the purchase. So after you either wire the cash for the fund, or you go through and you buy the house that you want to do fix and flip, or you buy the business, I'm going to tell you there's a shift that happens, but it takes roughly about 90 to 120 days. And what that shift that happens is you start opening up a gateway of things you can see. And as you get into whether it's the asset or what's happening, you start seeing more opportunities. And these opportunities are going to be, I'm going to tell you, they're going to be endless. Because what happens is you've now made it through the door of possibility. You faced your fear. You made the choice. And now you're starting to execute. Now, what will happen sometimes, anxiety will show up at different moments because you're still in the growth phase. And that growth and that learning curve is steep, but it's wonderful at the same time. Because think of it similar to like a muscle. One of the things that cracks me up now, because I've been exercising for a little bit of time, is the first, in CrossFit, we always called it the first wave adaptations. So that's that period of time, like from the time you start until you hit the second wave, you have this immense amount of growth that happens because you're going to have a crazy amount of soreness that you have to get used to because your body's not used to that type of, whether it's intensity, the central nervous system hasn't had that type of adjustments to go through because it's starting to learn a new behavior. So people that are getting started in exercise are like, oh my God, I'm so sore. And they're like, where does it hurt? Everywhere it hurts. And then you talk to somebody who's been training for a long period of time. You're like, oh, that's just normal. Like you kind of get used to it at a period of time. You're like, oh, things are sore, things are moving. So I need to make sure, like, did I have the right amount of protein to help me sustain it? What's my water intake look like? Oh crap. Man, my salt's really low. I may need to increase that. You get like all these little specialty things that you learn about your body. Same thing happens in business. Because as you're making those choices, you're creating a new mental model in your head. So you're creating new neural pathways, which means sometimes, just like that soreness you're going to have, sometimes that soreness shows up in life is masked by anxiety. Because now you're at a place where like, oh my God, I made this business decision. Now I don't want to screw it up. You're going to feel enlightened, like, oh my God, I did this, I'm this thing. Yeah. And then you're going to be like, crap. Now I really got to do what I said I was going to do. And that's where the fun starts. If you look at it, anytime you're going against the grain and you're sort of first generation in doing what you're doing, you got to kind of break down those barriers. You got to open up new doors. And sometimes you don't know if the handle turns left or it turns right. But after a few times, you get used to it. And that ability to stay connected to your desire while facing the natural fears that are going to show up is actually part of the process. It is, I'm going to tell you, it has way less to do than the actual business. Because the business has inputs, it has outputs. You can look at inputs, you can look at outputs. Eventually, you get a place where once you start feeling and you get the groove, which takes about 6 to 9 months to a year, after that year period of time, it's just kind of second nature to what you're looking to do. And through that period of time, that first year, I'm going to tell you, that's one hell of a ride because you're learning different language, you're learning different ways of operating, you're starting to see things you couldn't comprehend before. So like I've had different sales teams that I've ran and I'm running different groups now. And there's moments that I remember the first time I had to step in as an interim manager. And as I was an interim manager and I was taking phone calls and I was going through deal review and I was seeing it from a different lens, I knew after a couple calls with those people whether I could trust what they were telling me or not. And it made me sit back and reflect and go, so you're telling me all this time, all these guys knew I was full of shit when I was saying things? Yup. You can see it clearly. It's amazing how it shows up. And you go, oh, now I understand why they felt a particular way and why they wanted to clamp down some more, because I've never been in the situation where I was running these things. It changes things for you. You see it differently. So now you're going to see a business, and what happens most of the time for people is they chase after businesses that they really don't care about. But man, I got great revenue, got great profit and great life. I'm good. I got my numbers. I got things there. I'm gravy. Till employees quit. Until you're at a place where you're doing a fix and flip and ice comes through, rolls out, takes out your crew. So now you got to figure it out. All you understand is that most of the things that you're like the size of the problem you solve determines the compensation you earn. So if you're sitting in the big boy seat, you're going to deal with big boy problems. And then after a period of time, those problems normalize. You're just like, oh shit, that's going to happen. Cool, I wonder how long this employee is going to stay. I'm going to pour into him while I can. But I run a transitory business. People aren't really going to be there for 20, 30 years. Hey, I'm running a fix and flip business. As long as my contractors can actually do what they're going to say they're going to do, perfect. Hey, I invested in this fund. Sometimes you get capital calls. But if you invest in 10 funds, it doesn't fucking matter. Because it just creates this different perspective. You realize I'm going to hedge against life because it's going to happen. Time in and time again. But the beautiful thing is, if you take a step back and you look at what you're creating and the blueprints you're writing for those that are to follow you, man, oh man, is there amazing things that can happen. And I think it's just so wonderful and so beautiful that you have that possibility and that you have the opportunity to go make that happen, because that is the true desire. If you're a contrarian by nature, doesn't matter what side of the spectrum you're on, like if you got a little bit of that dog in you, that's what you're going to feel. And you're going to know those moments. And you're going to want that sense of freedom. But every sense of freedom comes with a lot of uncertainty. Then you just learn how to balance that uncertainty as you're moving forward. If you want the less risk profile, be an investor. You don't have to do anything. You're just more of like, you invest in things, sometimes the assets aren't going to perform the way you want them to. Cool. Then you got to show up and step in and do stuff. It's kind of like being an uncle. Sometimes the kids aren't going to listen to their dad. Step in, have a conversation, go through things. You're gravy. And same happens in the company. So as you're going through there, just know that it's okay. That's why I say lean on community. Because when you will realize, we talked about this in the military, and I had one NCO who told me, when you become an NCO, never talk like go to somebody with a lower rank for advice. It'll change their lens of how they view you. Always go higher. What happens when you're on the highest? Rank equal or higher. Rank equal or higher. Find other people that are doing the same thing, and you'll realize it's not as awful as you think it is. Because somebody else has it way worse than you have it going on. And you realize, damn, I didn't think it was going to be this much chaos. in dealing with this level of chaos on a daily basis. And you learn to do what's required, not what you want to do. Because there's going to be days, because all you're doing is you're trading in paycheck for a certain amount of uncertainty. And that's where true leveling up comes from. Just think about it. There's all kinds of articles and stuff on like CEO compensation and why should this person get paid this much or these type of things that go down. Then, remember that story I told you about like stepping in the seat? Then you sit down and you go, damn, that person who is the lowest employee cost, how much risk do they have associated with the actions they do? Not really that much. But then when you think about the person who's responsible for a company that's running, I don't know, 10,000 people, and every decision he makes is going to be criticized no matter what direction he goes, to the place where when he actually makes the choice or do things, it can impact not just 10,000 employees, but 10,000 families. You damn right he's going to earn the compensation he needs to do because he has to make very challenging and hard decisions. He has to be objective. Same thing happened in business, yeah. So if you have desires to have a certain lifestyle or do things or create certain opportunities, just know that there are trade-offs in everything. You're trading in certainty and safety and security, which is really not true, for uncertainty. And the only safety and security you have is in your one capabilities, which is why I'm always growing myself. I'm always getting myself in better rooms so I can sit down and I can find my tribe, because that's really what you truly desire at the end of the day. So with that to land a plane, I just want you to know what you should expect after closing the deal is more uncertainty and more doubts and more creepy crawlies to pop up than you did when you pulled the trigger. But it normalizes over time to where you realize those feelings are there, but you just don't listen to them as much. You don't pay them as much attention. Because in business, you never really fail. You just learn more for those select few who understand. This is a journey. This isn't a one-time thing, because one model can work perfect. And then you take it, you put it in a different situation, you're like, this doesn't work at all. It's like measuring the 40-yard dash of a fish on land versus in water. It's going to be a little bit jacked up, depending on how you measure it. But that's the ugly truth, and that's the real reality that you have the opportunity to look for. I'm not here to be a Debbie Downer or anything like that. I'm here to shoot it to you straight. Is that, remember, feelings are on a spectrum. If my spectrum is here and I expand it, well, as soon as you expand it on one side, you expand it on the other side. There's no such thing as expanding it only on one side to go there. That just means you're disassociated from what's really happening. So if I expand this, what happens is, I'll tell you the T of what happens. My ability to love gets stronger. My ability to appreciate the efforts of others gets stronger. My level of gratitude grows. Level of humility grows. So the things you think you love now, you're going to love even greater, because your spectrum is changing. It's on the depths of like anxiety, uncertainty, and fear and doubt and blah, blah, blah. Over here, love, joy, excitement, enthusiasm also grows at the same time. So I will tell you, buckle up. It's going to be a ride. Here's the thing. Your brain makes it way worse out than it actually is. Then it normalizes. It's just that journey from uncertainty to normalization is where opportunity is really created. And you get used to it at different times. So, as always, stay hungry, stay humble, and stay grateful. And until the next episode, just have some fun, y'all. It's going to be one hell of a ride. Cheers.